Now we're going to demonstrate the spiral diagonal movement patterns. These are the patterns that you would teach your clients or students prior to performing spiral diagonal stretch patterns. That way, if you teach them the movement patterns in a vertical position, they'll better understand the patterns that you want them to elicit during the lower body stretches in that horizontal position. So we're going to start with buckle the seat belt. So we'll go to the end range of motion, and then we'll press back and back up and down and back up and down and back up and down. Let's do one more and last one. And then we'll do it on the other side. Reach as full range of motion as you can, up and down, up and back, full range of motion. And let's do two more of those. And let's do one more. Then we'll go to sheathe the sword. Sheathe the sword starts with the arm up, reaching the fingers back as if you're trying to catch raindrops in your palm, and then reach across and sheathe the sword, and then back up and across and up and across and up and across and up and across. And let's do one more of those and last one. Then we'll bring our arm down. We'll take the left arm up, reach back as if you're trying to catch raindrops, and then sheathe the sword. Across and up and across, up and across, up and across, up and across, and last one, up and across. So those were our two upper body PNF movement patterns. Now we're going to move on to our lower body movement patterns. The first movement pattern is the soccer kick. We begin in the toe off position. We'll bring our right leg across, flex the foot, go back to toe off, reach across, flex, toe off, flex, toe off, flex. This is the extension, flex, and one more. And last one. Then we'll go to the other side, toe off with the left foot, flex as you come across, toe, flex, toe, flex, toe, flex, toe, flex. One more, toe, and flex. Then we're going to go to the snow plow. The snow plow will bring the right foot across and then go back to fifth position. Bring it back across, and then fifth position. So you'll notice that the ankle is extending as we come across, and then the ankle is flexing as we go to that fifth position. As you watch us move through those planes of movement, you'll be able to identify the three planes. And last one, and bring it in. Then we'll go to the other side, foot comes across, and then back and across, and back. So as you're watching us go through these movements, think about those three planes of movement and where the movement is occurring in those planes. And let's do one more and last one, and bring it up. So those are the spiral diagonal movement patterns that you would teach your clients, and then you would go to the spiral diagonal stretch patterns. Okay, now let's talk about the spiral diagonal movement patterns and exactly what effect they have on our body. So I'm going to get Deb to take her right arm up into that sheath of sword, and then your left leg out into the toe off. So if you imagine a spiral diagonal line running from Deb's tips of her fingers all the way across her body down to her toes on the front of her body, and then also doing the same thing on the other side, you can see that there would be an intersection of an X in the center of her body. The same thing with the back of the body. So Deb, if you would turn around and then take your right arm up, and then right here, you'll have a diagonal line from the tip of her finger all the way across her body, down the back of her leg, all the way down the bottom of her foot to the back of her toes. So then she has an X intersecting right here in the center of her body. So then you can see, so you can turn back around now. So you can see from thinking about those lines intersecting Deb's body here and in the back, if one of the lines is stronger on one side or longer on one side, then, or stronger actually on one side, then the other side might be less taut. And so that can create imbalance. So when we hear the term that the body is like a circus tent and the core is the center of a tent, a lot of times we don't equate that with those spiral diagonal lines, and we don't equate with the center of the tent being here. We think more about the tent instead of the tent, the top of the tent here and the bottom of the tent behind us. We think more about the tent. The top of the tent is at the crown of the head and the bottom of the tent is the ground. However, if you take your mind and imagine that the top of the tent is here and the bottom of the tent is behind Deb, then you can see that if one of the lines in the tent was stronger on one side and looser on the other side, it could cause, say, her pelvis to be up, her shoulders to rotate, this pelvis to be rotated here, so that her lines are pulling her in all different directions. So by moving through the spiral diagonal lines and by doing P&F stretching, our goal is to bring these lines more taut to the center, taut from the center, so that they're strong from the center out and not sagging at any point. So I hope that makes that more sense for you as far as why we want to incorporate spiral diagonal movements and how these spiral diagonal movements can translate into our proper functional movement throughout the course of our daily activities. So going back to the analogy of the tent, as we just talked to Deborah about the tent, actually thinking about the tent from a horizontal orientation instead of from a vertical orientation, it makes more sense of how the spiral diagonal lines really affect your movement patterns and how the body can get out of balance. So now when you hear the term, your body's like a circus tent, then as you're explaining that to your clients and to your students, you might give them more of that horizontal orientation of the tent. So the body is horizontal, and then the tent either is the top of the tent is behind the body or the top of the tent is in front of the body, and then the lines of the tent either go out from the top of the tent in front of the body or from the back, the top of the tent from the back of the body. So that gives a better understanding of that circus tent analogy rather than thinking about a circus tent from the crown of the head down to the feet.